Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. So in our last video, we discussed about that there were a group of companions who came to meet the Prophet from Yemen. And based on the context, based on the way the Prophet is talking, we see that these are not ordinary companions. And he says that their hearts are tender and their iman is firm. So they asked the Prophet that, Ya Rasulullah, who is this wasi? Who is this hablun min Allah? So first the Prophet says, well, the wasi is the hablun min Allah. Then he quotes another one and he says that the wasi is the hablun min an-nas. And we understand that yes, what he's trying to tell us is Quran and the Ahlul Bayt. Now let's go forward. So the Prophet keeps telling these companions that he doesn't tell the people that the wasi is Imam Ali yet, because apparently Ghadir has still not happened. So we are somewhere early in history. He goes ahead and he keeps reciting verses to sort of describe what Imam Ali is. And finally these companions, they've really become eager. So the Arabic is like this. لَقَدْ أَشْتَقْنَا إِلَيْهِ Ya Rasulullah, we are eager to know who this successor of yours is. So the Prophet still doesn't give the name. In fact, he says something like this, and I will say the Arabic because within this the Prophet is saying something extremely deep. So we'll have to look at the Arabic. He says, In nazartum ilay, nazara man kana lahu qalban aw alqa sam'un wa huwa shahid. So basically he's saying that if you look at this wasi of mine in a way that you have a heart, rather he's saying a pure heart, or you can listen. It's not referring to the physical ears because everyone had ears around them, but only some could understand what the Prophet is trying to say. And they are shaheed. Shaheed in the sense means that because their hearts are pure, the ears of their hearts are also open, and they are witnessing something on a higher realm basically. They're witnessing something deeper. So the Prophet says that if you can look at my wasi like this, you will identify him. And he tells them that, look, I'm not going to tell you his name. Well, I'm adding this. He says, just go amongst the people and see who your heart's inclined towards. So he's still not told them the name. This is very important because on Ghadir, for example, the Prophet says, Man kuntu mawla fahaza aliyun mawla. In another place, he says, Hadith manzila, Ya Ali, anta minni bi manzilat Harun min Musa. But here, for these special companions from Yemen, he's trying to teach them something else. And this is a very big lesson to us, which I will come to in a moment. So these companions, they go, they look at different people, but suddenly they catch the hand of one person. And obviously, they catch the hand of Imam Ali. So the Prophet is like, how did you recognize him? So these companions, they say that, Ya Rasulullah, when we looked at the other people, we weren't affected. But when we saw this man, our hearts trembled. Then our souls became at ease, we shed tears and our chest was strengthened. Subhanallah. They don't know that Imam Ali is the successor. But just because their hearts were clean, because of their clean hearts, because of their pure worship to God, when they simply looked at the Imam, they were able to recognize him. So the Prophet says, you are the elites of Allah. You recognize the wasi before you were told about him. This point is very important because bear in mind, this is Kitabul Ghaiba. And the author is collecting these ahadiths to sort of explain to us about Imam Mahdi. So what the Prophet is really trying to tell us is that in this day and age, when the Ahlul Bayt are not in front of us, Imam Mahdi is in Ghaiba. Through the example of Imam Ali, he is trying to tell us that if you worship God in a certain way, that this worship, whether it's your ethics, it's your ibadat, your namaz, etc., what happens is that your heart becomes clean. When your heart becomes clean and you reach a certain level of ma'rifah, then even though you don't know who the Imam is, but when the Imam comes in front of you, through your heart you're able to realize. Now let's put this more into perspective. So now the hadith is over, these people have realized who the wasi is, even though the Prophet has not yet told them, he's not officially announced it. So we have a dua from Imam Mahdi himself in which he says that, Allahumma arifni nafsak, fa in lam tu'arifni nafsak, lam arif rasulak. Allahumma arifni rasulak fa in lam tu'arifni rasulak lam arif hujjatak. Allahumma arifni hujjataka fa in lam tu'arifni hujjataka dhalaltu an dini. Oh Allah, make me recognize yourself. If you don't make me recognize yourself, I won't recognize your prophet. If I won't recognize your prophet, please make me, I won't recognize your hujjah. If I won't recognize the hujjah, I will go astray from my religion. So you see that all these things about Islam, whether it's your salat, namaz, whatever it is, your sawm, your fasting, your hajj, all these things are trying to take you to a higher level. And what is that level? What Allah says in Surah Zariyat verse 56, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسِ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. And on this very verse, Imam Hussain tells us that Yabudun means liya'rifun, i.e., when you worship God, you recognize Allah. Now we have another hadith on this same context. What happens is that once a person recognizes God, automatically his level of worship increases. And then, so the Imam says that the one who recognizes God truly worships God. So in the same way, we see that recognizing Allah, recognizing the Prophet, recognizing the Hujjah takes us to a higher level in which we are able to worship God truly. Now, these are companions. Companions for who the Prophet says their hearts are pure, they are rasikun imanuhum, their iman is strong. But they are not Imam Ali. Imam Ali is on a different level. Why? Let's look at one dua. Rather, before we come to the dua, let's look at Nahjul Balagha. There is a certain khutbah in which Debil says, Hal ra'ayta rabbaka, ya Ali. So Imam Ali says, have you seen your Lord? Imam Ali replies, he says, I do not worship a Lord that I do not see. So when that happens, he says that, O Debil, Allah la turahul ayan bimashahadat al-uyun, lakin tudrikuhul qulub bihaqa'iq al-iman. So Imam tells Debil that Allah is not seen through the physical eyes. Rather, the hearts perceive Him through the realities of faith. So you see how the link is made. That in that particular hadith around in Kitabul Gaiba, we see that those companions had soft hearts. The iman was firm because of worshipping God. But here Imam Ali is on a higher level. He's on another level and he's telling us what worship is supposed to be. So let's go one step forward. In the famous Munajat-e-Shabaniya, which is again from Amirul Mu'mineen himself, he has these lines which again talk about the qalb. He says, Ilahi, habli qalban yudnihi minka shawquh, wa lisanan yurfa ilayhi sidquh, wa nazaran yuqarribuhu minka haqqo. He says that Allah, give me a heart whose yearning makes me close to you, a tongue whose honesty is raised up to you, and nazar, so that vision that brings me closer to you. So you see in that narration also, the Prophet, in order to make them understand how to recognize the wasi, he says you need a certain kind of a vision. And in this munajat again, or rather in this dua, even Imam Ali is asking for a certain vision. And then he goes ahead. He says that, Ilahi, anir absarana bidhiyahi nazar. He says basically, Allah, illuminate the eyes of our heart so that they can tear the veils of light. Usually what we understand is that when we sin, our hearts get surrounded with veils of darkness. But here Imam Ali is talking about something even higher. He says he's asking Allah for such a kind of nur in his heart that he is able to tear the veils of light. Thus, when it comes down to worshipping Allah, understanding what the religion is, we have to go to the wasi of the Prophet, because he is the door to the Prophet. He is the wasila. He is the wasi himself. But unfortunately, in spite of all these hadiths, all these merits about Imam Ali, there are some who still say he is the fourth Khalifa. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen.